All right, so today we're doing something a little different. We're taking a single, really provocative sentence from our source material, and we're just going to unpack it. We're going to see what it could mean for, well, the entire world of technology. Let's get right into it.
This is it. This one sentence is our entire launchpad. It's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? A total change. But what does that actually mean in practice? Let's treat this like resolving a puzzle. And for the next few minutes, we're going to build out a hypothesis for what this future could really look like.
So, to figure out where we might be going, you've always got to know where you came from. First things first, let's set a baseline. Let's take a quick look at how things were just a few years ago. Remember the early 2020s? I mean, it doesn't feel that long ago, but in tech years, it can feel like a totally different century. Back then, the paths to becoming a developer were pretty well worn, and they all required a massive investment of time and a very, very specific set of skills. For a lot of people, that journey started with a classic 4-year computer science degree. Others went for the faster track, online courses or those super intensive coding boot camps. But look, no matter which path you took, the goal was always the same. You had to arm yourself with the fundamental, hands-on skills of writing code. And what exactly were those skills? Oh, it was all about the nitty-gritty. We're talking about mastering the complex syntax of languages like Python or JavaScript, memorizing all those algorithms, and spending hours, sometimes days, manually hunting down bugs. The real emphasis was on building everything from the ground up, one painstaking line at a time. Okay, so we've got our baseline set. Now let's jump forward to our 2026 hypothesis. If the old way was all manual, well, the new way is nothing short of a revolution. Let's try to deconstruct what this new era of development actually looks like. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Look at this shift in focus. On the left, you've got the builder, the person who's deep in the weeds of implementation. But on the right, you have the architect. Suddenly, a developer's job isn't primarily about writing the code anymore. It's about designing the system and describing the outcome you want to an AI partner. And this is the catalyst for that entire change. The AI Copilot. Now, think of this not as a tool that replaces developers, but as an unbelievably powerful partner. The human provides the vision, the logic, the why, and the AI handles the repetitive, syntax-heavy lifting of actually generating the code. This new kind of partnership, well, it needs a whole new way of communicating. And that brings us to something called semantic coding. Instead of telling the computer exactly how to do something step by step, you just tell it what you want to achieve. The focus completely shifts from syntax to semantics, from the form to the actual meaning. And this is so crucial. The skills that are required have moved way up the chain of abstraction. If you compare this to those old priorities, the 2026 developer is a systems thinker, a creative problem solver, and, maybe most importantly, a critical validator of what the AI creates. The focus is way less on memorization and way more on critical thinking. And this chart just spells it all out perfectly, doesn't it? This is the new division of labor. In this hypothetical 2026 project, a full 50% of the code is generated by an AI. Just poof, it's there. The biggest chunk of human effort, 30%, is now all about that initial architectural design. And you see that tiny little 5% sliver for human oversight? It might look small, but that is everything. That's where the most experienced and valuable developers really make their mark. Which, of course, brings us to the big, looming question that I'm sure is on your mind right now. If an AI is writing half the code, does that mean human developers are on their way out? The answer, at least according to this hypothesis, is a huge no. Absolutely not. The role isn't disappearing. It's evolving into something way more strategic and, frankly, more creative. Let's dig into what your future in tech could look like. So this is what the day-to-day could look like now. You start by just deeply understanding the problem, the business problem, the user problem. You become an expert in that domain. Then you architect the solution. You don't build it, you design it. Step 3 is all about guiding that AI copilot. And step 4, the most critical part, is validating the output. Does it work? Is it secure? Is it ethical? A machine can't answer those questions on its own. Look, if you take just one thing away from all of this, let it be this metaphor. The identity of a coder is shifting from being a bricklayer to being the architect of the entire cathedral. The real value is in the vision, not just the execution.
Now remember, this whole thing has been a hypothesis built from one single sentence about the year 2026. But the path it suggests, it doesn't just stop there. So where could all of this be heading in the long run? I love this quote because it just perfectly captures the essence of this whole new era. When an AI can translate your intent into pretty much any programming language you want, your ability to think clearly and communicate your goals with precision, that becomes the single most valuable skill a person can have. And that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to think about. If that barrier between human ideas and machine execution just keeps getting thinner and thinner, what are we going to be learning next? What becomes the next great language for human creation? Something to chew on. Thanks for listening.